Welcome, folks, to the Devoxx UK 2025 interviews with our beloved speakers. I have next to me Ante Tomić, who has been our speaker at Devoxx UK, and he had a session on
empathy-driven development.
Oh, that's a very cool topic. Can you tell us more about that? How do you drive development with empathy?
Well, I personally am 60%, about 55 to 60% deaf in both ears. So I myself am actually someone who needs to live with accessibility. So I already have for a few years my goal to actually help raise awareness about the parts of accessibility and web that are maybe not so widely covered. And I noticed that frequently the habit that sometimes developer teams do is that they follow the guidelines or the list. But it won't always be about that. Sometimes we need to simply put ourselves in a different shoes and think about how it is for them. What could actually help them benefit from, what could actually help them bring benefits, or what could make using product better for them.
Okay, so you mean like think about the accessibility of an app, of a product, not just think about the functionality of a product, right?
Yeah, functionality of the product and how to make it accessible. So last year when I on Devoxx UK talked about hearing impair accessibility, this year I invited it up a little bit. So I'm focusing on accessibility in general, but putting into mind more focus on examples and more focus on what it truly means to put yourself in a different shoes, because there are different kinds of accessibilities. All of us have experienced disability at some moment in our lives, even you, even, I don't know, anyone else. So
Indeed.
we need to think about that, we need to be aware of that and how our customers can actually use the product.
Indeed. And speaking from your experience, what tools are you using for improving the accessibility of what you're working on?
So what am I using? I personally am using, because of my hearing loss, I personally am using captions the most.
Okay.
And I always try to read the written text, because what is the point with me is that I usually understand directly about 30 or 40% of the stuff that was said to me. So most of the time when someone talks to me, I actually always guess what was said to me. I use something called decoding.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
So that experience is something that I put into my talk, and it gives it kind of like experiential, emotional note even.
Oh, that's very nice. And from accessibility point of view, the apps that you have worked on, what do you find it most challenging to address for end users that need to have those applications accessible? And what is more difficult to implement as a developer to make an application?
What is the most challenging to achieve for the user?
To create through code to make an application accessible.
Well, the problem is that you don't always know what your customers need, because sometimes you will have, let's say, the checklist or something like that. But very frequently you will be missing actually what some might struggle with, because it's not always easy to cover everything. And for example, in info web accessibility is bigger and bigger focused, and it takes a while to achieve it, especially with incoming European Accessibility Act, which basically makes it a must for anyone who is in the European Union. So I think the hard point is actually making sure that you reach absolutely everyone.
That's a very good, important aspect. I know that in Europe we have a set of rules for accessibility. I think they're called WCAG, right?
W3C, yeah.
Okay, thank you for correcting me. And there's a new rules coming up, right?
European Accessibility Act, which will basically, I think from June, if I'm not wrong, it will make it basically mandatory to have accessibility compliance. I know the UK already has it when I was doing research for my talk, and USA has it to some extent, and Europe where they introduced the guidelines, official guidelines in like 2018, I think. If I'm not wrong, I'm not 100% sure now, but they are coming like the whole European Accessibility Act is coming into effect from June this year.
So we're actually making the world more inclusive with what we're doing as software developers.
Yeah, but not everything is also in, you have AAA and AAA, so
Okay.
some like different levels, like what needs to be met, most aim
Yes.
for double A.
Yeah.
Triple A includes some stuff which could definitely be useful, but which could also be very challenging to achieve.
Yeah, I know that even across European Union's countries, there are some that have a more stricter law to abide and a higher standard in terms of accessibility for all the applications that are available via web and from the domains of that country. In the past, I think I used to work for something that had to be available in Norway, and Norway had like more stricter rules than the rest of the countries in EU, and it was indeed, as you say, tougher to implement and more challenging.
Yeah.
For our audience, what tools do you use to test or to assess? How do you know that you reach AA or AAA accessibility level? What can you use to test that? How do you test that specific level?
There usually
technologies?
you can detect some of accessibility issues with Chrome Developer Tools has very nice integration, so I can give you some insights. I like how Google House is working, for example, because it offers you also, you can go directly to the element. It's especially good for example, for viewing, for seeing impairments, disabilities, and there are some good tools like Axe Developer Tools and such. All of them can warn you about what is the problem with accessibility, but most of the times it only covers like 30-40% of the issues. Usually you need some sort of accessibility audits or have testers who are actually
Focusing on
specialized in testing accessibility, because usually that will be the point that will help you detect the most. For example, what I've heard is that most companies use accessibility audits and usually train testers, and there are linked, for example, automatic code quality tool that can run you directly into code or something like that.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's really impressive. And one last question, if I may. Do you think AI can help us improve the way that we are doing accessibility nowadays?
I think yes and no.
Okay.
So
Please tell me.
AI, I did an experiment and one talk where I tried building some sort of little AI assistant which actually tried to also actually check if your website, according to the looks, the elements, is prepared to be some sort of ready for localization.
Okay.
Because when you even do localization, it actually is a part of accessibility.
Okay.
And you have to take in mind that several languages have longer text, shorter text, you need to prepare for all of that.
Of course.
For example, or left to right to left languages. AI is very good at detecting such sort of stuff. So you can give it guidelines, you can give it the rules, but you also have its knowledge. But what AI cannot know is how someone struggles with that. He cannot know what really makes it hard for the customer to use. He cannot know the customer's frustrations. So
Yeah,
these are some sort of things that it is still missing. So my opinion, AI is there, but not fully there yet. So it can help to some extent.
All great insights. Well, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you also for inviting me. Yeah, I'm really glad to be here again at Devoxx UK.
It's great for us to have you too. Folks, I invite you to watch Ante's talk. It's going to be on our Devoxx channel, and see there more examples and more insights on how to make your applications more accessible, but also for you to have an empathetic development towards your end users. Thank you.
Thank you.